Never before in the history of recent modern cinema has a movie had such a low standard to beat. Yeah. Hercules is directed by Brett Ratner, written by Ryan J. Condal and Evan Spiliotopoulos, and it's based on a graphic novel called Hercules: The Thracian Wars by Steve Moore and Admira Wijaya. And this movie stars Dwayne Johnson, Ian McShane, Reese Ritchie, and John Hurt. So in Hercules, the interesting thing is that Hercules in this movie is not a demigod. Well, at least no one believes he is. In this movie, all these myths and legends about, how Hercules is the son of Zeus, all of that really is just myth in this movie. And in this movie, Hercules is the leader of this band of mercenaries, and pretty much they just go around helping, like, the highest bidder with their problems and stuff. And in this movie, they're helping out the Thracians maintain peace in their land. Now, like I mentioned in the intro, this movie is not to be confused with The Legend of Hercules, which came out in January and it was terrible, and yeah. Ironically, though, the title The Legend of Hercules fits this one much, much better because it's really about how Hercules is supposedly like this all powerful being, whereas, the previous Hercules movie is. Uh, and in this Hercules movie, like, what are you expecting? I mean, Brett Ratner's directing it, Dwayne Johnson is the lead. All the trailers are trying not to hide the fact that it's like an action movie and stuff. And if you go in and you just expect an action movie, you're gonna be fulfilled. Is this a good movie? I wouldn't go so far as to call it good. Is it a fun movie? Heck yeah, it's a fun movie. It embraces its B moviness so much, and it's so proud of it, and for that, it's a really fun time. Now, for the most part, the visual effects and the production design and stuff, it all looks fine. It's nothing special, really. The visual effects in the trailer, like, it's kind of misleading, the trailer, because it shows so much more CGI than there actually is, or you might think there is. Like, most of this movie is very realistic, relatively speaking. And in terms of production design, some of the sets are quite grandiose, but they feel a bit empty. And I feel the same way towards like the costumes and stuff. Like they look good, the armor and all that. But I would have wanted something more to them to really add to the characters. How other movies like the armor and stuff really feels like, oh, this armor means I'm from Thrace, something like that. But you never really get that sense. Like all the armor and costumes and stuff kind of look the same ish. For the most part, the pacing is fine. It's standard action movie fare. It really everything. So there's always something happening in the movie. However, for the most part, it feels very very aimless, especially for like the first hour. And a lot of times it's just like start stop start stop. It just started raining. So for most of this movie, you're just kind of watching them go along, but you don't feel like a story is developing at all. And the ending, my god, is rushed beyond belief. Not only is it rushed, but it just does not match well with the rest of the movie. And you could tell their budget also got kind of cut there because they try to do a lot of VFX stuff. Doesn't look good. Now, in terms of acting, Dwayne Johnson's actually very, very likable. He's always likable. He's a great screen presence, really. He has this optimism about him that's just infectious. However, I can't help but think, despite his physicality, despite, how he is able to do these stunts, I just can't help but feel like he's miscast for the role because his accent isn't very convincing and he has to do lots of shouting and rallying cries and hero speeches and stuff and just does not fit him. I think he's more of like that tough guy person. It's really weird when he has a wig and he's in front of the crowd and he's like giving like an Aragorn or Braveheart speech. It's just strange. All the other actors are fine. However, I don't feel like they all feel like they kind of have the same general personality. They don't really do anything to separate themselves from the other characters. However, I will say that my favorite actor in this movie is Ian McShane as one of Hercules' mercenary friends who's like a seer, so he can see into the future, and he's actually really funny, and he has a cool like lance weapon thing, and I don't know, he was just a fun guy, and Ian McShane is a great actor, and he just put lots of charisma into the dude. Now, unfortunately, in terms of writing, the characters have like nothing to them. They're all given sort of like a little backstory, especially all of these people on Hercules' team. But those background stories feels like they're just there. They don't really add a third dimension to the characters. It doesn't feel like those backstories have affected these characters now in the present. And a lot of the dialogue is cheesy, very very standard stuff also. And there's like some really weird, awkward profane humor, and like they swear in this movie. They use like modern swears, and I'm actually fine with that. I thought it gave this movie kind of like a unique twist. But then they start making like sexual jokes, and it's really strange. And really, in terms of plot, again, like I mentioned a while ago, like for the most part of this movie, you're just waiting for the plot to develop, and it doesn't happen. And the plot only really kicks in at the end. But it's just too late at that point. However, the best part of this movie is hands down the legend aspect. The way it's revisionist. They're trying to take the legends about Hercules, and they try to expose them for like what really happened, and that's so interesting to me. And it's just so great to see the reactions of characters when Hercules and his team do something really smart and tactical, and to the enemy it just seems like godly powers, and that's really really fun. Now, in terms of directing, again, Brett Ratner just really doesn't know how to handle characters. I'm sorry. Like we saw it in X Men: The Last Stand, you see it again here. Like he just does not really understand that you need to really flesh out these characters. It's not enough to give them just one motivation on paper and expect that to be all right. And I don't know, but I feel like there are lots of inconsistencies on with regards to like Hercules' strength, because this entire movie takes so much time to show you that Hercules is not a demigod and stuff. But then they do things where he punches a guy and he flies back like 20 feet, and you're thinking, is he really just like really strong? Is he actually a demigod? Kind of made me confused. However, I will say that Brett Ratner is a good well, a great action director in my opinion, and the action scenes here are super super fun. They're really really awesome to watch. Like there are two, I think, huge main action sequences, and they're just so fun, and they have so much fun with all these characters and all the different weapons and stuff, and just playing around with the environment. Like this entire movie could have been just that, and it would have been really entertaining. In the end, though, Hercules is just an movie. Like it's not a good movie because there's so many little problems with it, but it does not change the fact that it's very entertaining. I actually wish we could go back in time and do this again with like a different director maybe, but like keep the idea, because this concept is so interesting, and there's so much you can do with it, and they really hit the legend aspect really well on the head, I think, and they did the action scenes really great. So yeah, this is like really great light entertainment for you and your friends. Like if you're just bored like at home or something, or you need something to watch, pop in Hercules. It's gonna be a fun time. Alright guys, so that's my review of Hercules. What do you guys think about it? If you've seen it, whether you hated it or you loved it, or whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.